as a parent, you need to fight for your child a lot. I've been doing all sorts of work that should really be done by the school or by the social service or by the educational system or by the medical force. So as a parent, you need to do all of the things that society doesn't really help out with, unfortunately.
Honestly, just government stop being stupid.
So there's something called åtgärdsplan, which is a plan how to help a kid with special needs that needs some sort of adjustments in school to be able to attend school and to be able to benefit from the lessons. So when you do this plan, then it doesn't have to be things that cost a lot of money either. Sometimes it has to be, but sometimes it could just be to have a designated seat for the child, so it always knows where to sit.
Some things that an autistic student might need is a reduced schedule. For me, I get tired super easily. It'll probably encourage them to go to school.
Yes, and also because you have to put so much energy into other things than just the lesson itself.
Yeah, like social interaction, there's so many things that we don't do automatically. We have to focus actively on doing because you have like 1,000 things that you need to focus on to fit in.
I think you say something really important now, because when you think about reducing your school day, it's not just taking away the last lesson of the day or the first lesson of the day, because you have a considerate less amount of energy to take from. So it means that you have to reduce your schedule to a greater extent than just one class.
Yeah, like light and sound are probably some of the most common hypersensitivities for autistic people. For some autistic people, their sensitivities are extremely, I would say, brutal. Some people can't at all handle lights. It's so blinding.
If the student needs to have a hoodie or a cap on, just let them. I mean, it's such an easy thing.
Yeah,
and I know
it's not a big deal. You can just let them.
Yeah, it doesn't cost anything.
Yeah.
And if it helps the student to be able to focus and not getting a really bad headache, why don't let that student do that? And before you talked about how you have a hard time to remember things, so there's also like visual aids that you can help the students remember stuff with. For instance, to have pictograms or pictures.
A lot of autistic people prefer the internet when learning stuff because of the fact that it teaches you through visual.
And there's more senses. It's visual, it's hearing, it's seeing.
Yeah, like for me, I have learned a bunch of history and like stuff about religion because I have learned about it from accounts on YouTube because they use such fun ways of teaching you. So.
And also you like to go to museums and actually see the things and maybe even touch them. There's a lot of alternative ways, and not all of them have to be super advanced, super expensive.
Yeah, if you're doing like what we call in Sweden ritplot, which is just drawing on a paper while explaining what is going to happen in the day, it doesn't have to be like a legitimate drawing. You can just draw stick figures and that's fine. You just have to show them what is going to happen. The Swedish school system makes things 100 times harder for anyone with any kind of neurological disorder like autism or ADHD, dyscalculia, dyslexia.
We have 10% of the population that have some sort of neurological disability. So this is a huge amount of people. And it's not just that, it's also because a lot of you guys have another way of thinking, which means that a lot of scientists, a lot of artists, a lot of really creative people are getting like pushed out of school. I don't think that it really should matter if you're talented or not. As a human being, you have the right to have elementary education. So we have this survey made by an NGO called Riksförbundet Attention that show that only 2% of the parents with children that has a problematic school situation believe that the school have done enough to make their children come back to school. We have now a succeed rate of only 37%, shows another survey made from Autism och Aspergerförbundet, which means that a gross majority of the children with autism don't even get into college. And a college degree is something you need to have in Sweden to be able to get a job. So we have a catastrophic situation, and we can't really see that it's going the right way. On the contrary, we keep reading about school budgets that are cut even more from year to year. What is really scary about this is that if schools are bad at helping children with autism or ADHD or dyslexia, and we get into a situation where these children get sick from going to school, then as a parent, you are forced to put your children in school anyways because it's mandatory. And if you don't manage to get your children to school, in the end, you risk that your children are taken from you. It happens more and more. And we have children as young as 7, 8, 9-year-old that don't want to live anymore. We have small children that are put in institutions, like you were, Mulán. You were put there for the reason that you weren't able to go to school. And so did your big brother. We have a lost generation of children that are falling out of school, and society just let it happen. I don't know what to do anymore, because we've been screaming about this. We have been out in the streets, been talking to politicians, to managers, officials, to all the authorities and governmental bodies that exist about the situation. And still, the trend is the contrary. We're going more and more backwards in this area. Not even the debate is going right now, because now we're talking about there has to be more discipline, the students have to behave well. If the students can't behave, it's their own fault, and if it's not their fault, then it's their parents' fault. So if they don't go to school, well, be it. It's their problem. We have a situation and an environment right now in Sweden where we don't care about these children, and we put all the blame on them instead of doing something about the system. We also know that school is the number one protection when it comes to protect somebody from being a criminal or being sick or having mental issues. I mean, this is a catastrophe on so many levels. And of course, the most traumatic and sad about all this is that you, autistic people, are the one that are paying the price. Okay, so we've been really angry in this episode. I don't know, maybe we should try to end in a good note. What can we say to help? Because we know there's a lot of families struggling right now. Like every year when the semester starts, we hear about families and children that break down.
Instead of continuously caring only for the people who fit your narrative of normal, try actually helping those who need help. There's such a huge portion of autistic people who just aren't getting help. Goodbye and stay safe. Next time we're going to talk about eating difficulties.